Bills Mafia, what is up? And welcome into the very first episode of the Humble and Hungry podcast here on the 12 Squared brand, the 12 Squared network. And I have a very special guest with me. I'm sure you all know him, one of the hardest working men and women in the Buffalo Bills content creation community. My man, Justus, is with me. What's going on, man?
Oh man, I feel so special. First ever guest. Oh man, I appreciate that. Um, I love you, Charlie. Always enjoy every single time we've worked together. It has been an absolute blast, and I really appreciate you having me on the show today.
Well, I appreciate that. I've always enjoyed working with you. And for somebody who doesn't know, I don't know how they would not know, but you about a month ago, recently, I would say, got hired, promoted, whatever the case may be, to be the director of the podcast and YouTube division over at the Buffalo fan base. And for the people who don't know, it's basically littered with everybody who created the Bills Mafia hashtag, all the old people, not in age-wise, just in fandom, from the old Bills
OGs.
message boards that Bruce Nolan will talk about. So you're doing great stuff over there with Caveman and Jake Jordan and Ryan. So that's awesome. I'm really happy for you guys.
Thank you. I appreciate it, man. That's, oh my God, crazy, just crazy. When I guess when one door closes, another one opens. So.
Yeah, man. Hard work will pay off, man. That's obvious, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And it feels good, for it to work out, so I'm very happy. I'm excited. I'm about to take it over.
So we've got some stuff to talk about today. First of all, this offseason has been crazy. I've never seen an offseason like this, just in terms of the league and what Brandon Beane has done. I think maybe my last episode was right around the Von Miller signing, which is awesome. But everybody got real worried in the last 10 days because he got Tyreek Hill, Devontae Adams, all these guys getting new contracts being traded, and they're all from teams with big quarterback salaries. And we know the Bills got a big quarterback salary. And when asked about it, Brandon Beane gave his answer, which I think is now code for, I'm going to sign this guy tomorrow. We got Stefon. He's on a 2-year contract. We're not worried about it. And then they hit him with a giant extension to keep him here. And basically they said that he's going to retire here as a Bill, whether that's at the end of this extension or they get him another year or two after that. Big extension. I'm sure Josh Allen's excited. Certainly Diggs was excited. I'm excited. I'm sure you're excited. Well, what were your thoughts when you heard that news?
I mean, I wasn't like scared about, all those little tweets or whatever, but I ain't gonna lie, I was a little worried. I was a little bit concerned. There were other people who were like super confident, and it's not that I wasn't. I still think we had like 2 years left on this deal. I'm sure that it could have been resolved at some point, no matter what. But somehow Brandon Beane made it happen. I don't know what exactly the salary cap is anymore because I don't know how it works or just like are they using like literal magic? I have no clue. So I just know a lot of people's bonuses their salaries get turned into bonuses, and then we sign Von Miller, and then we extend Diggs, and then so Brandon Beane keeps making it happen somehow, and I was really excited to obviously have one of, if not the best wide receiver in the NFL, back with the best quarterback in the NFL. So super excited.
Yeah, definitely. And I listened to his press conference today. I believe it was yesterday, and I don't think I've heard him talk a whole lot, but I was super impressed with him. I was super impressed with just how important leadership was to him and kind of earning his keep. And you can tell that he's a great, seems like a great person for that locker room, hard worker, great, role model for the young guys. And going to the salary cap, man, I've been looking at the salary cap, and I mean, yeah, I'm not really sure how they drew it either, to be honest. A lot of base salaries, committing to bonuses, and next year is really when some of the funky stuff starts to happen because Josh becomes 18% of the salary cap and this, that, and the other. So
But then his salary turns into a bonus. So like then what? Like I don't know.
Yeah, there's definitely some weird stuff going on, but those are tools that Brandon Beane has at his disposal. And the most important thing is that Josh Allen's comfortable, that he's got his guy. And I mean, I'm not a big believer in the Super Bowl window. I'm a big believer in let's just make the playoffs every year, be as good as we can, keep improving and see what happens. And that's what we're doing.
Yeah. Absolutely. That makes a ton of sense. You shoot for the Super Bowl every year, of course, because that's the ultimate goal. But ultimately, make the playoffs every year. And then once you get to the playoffs, it's all randomness. For the most part, it's like 85% randomness, right? Maybe a 2 seed will blow out a 7 seed. Like, okay, I get that. But like, there are some wild things happen in the playoffs that nobody expects. And, having a guy like Josh Allen and now Stefon Diggs for the long term, guys like that, every year going into the playoffs, you give yourself a shot to, win the Lombardi every time. And not to mention, they're keeping players on this defense. They have a very good defensive philosophy that seems to work, even with maybe not great talent, as good a talent as some of the other top defenses in the NFL. And they do it, and they do it at a high level. People say things like, the lack of the backup quarterbacks and everything like that, it contributed to the number one defense. But like, those were bad quarterbacks that played a lot of other AFC teams too. And no other AFC team that played those horrible quarterbacks could get the number one defense. So I still think there is some credence in, that their accomplishment should be acknowledged. And then, you take that number one defense and you just absolutely bolster its one weakness, which was the defensive line this offseason. Yeah, man, I think that going forward for at least the next 2 to 3 years, the Bills will put themselves in a position to contend for a title, really no matter what, barring, God forbid, injury. So.
Right. And I think too, it's a great point about, the defense. I heard a podcast today and the host was talking about, well, did the Bills traded out this and they got this and this guy's this age and this guy's that age, and did they really improve? And I think they of course they improved on the defensive line. And I think they're going to surprise people with the structure of the way the offense is. I think there's a good chance. Obviously the draft hasn't happened yet. It's in about 21 days or so. I think they could draft a wide receiver in the first 2 or 3 rounds. I think they probably should. But I also think that we're going to see more 2 tight end sets. And this isn't, a new idea I'm suggesting here. A lot of other people believe the same thing. But I just think that, that's like the next evolution is getting Dorsey, bringing his ideas in there. And I'm not saying they're never going to go 10 personnel. They're never going to go 11 personnel. That's what they're best at. But bringing in these 2 tight ends, you've got 2 really athletic guys. And I think that that's kind of what cushions Gabe Davis for what seems like a promotion to wide receiver 2, because Diggs is obviously first. And then to me, it's almost just a committee. Like wide receiver 2 or pass catcher 2 is really just a big committee of Knox, Crowder, Davis, maybe not OJ Howard necessarily, but I just think it's whoever's open is going to get the ball. So I think that cushions Gabe Davis, because Gabe Davis, we don't know what he's going to look like with more attention, because there's always been sort of that other guy there to take attention. So now, dynamic playmaker down the field, great around the sideline. But if he does struggle a little bit at the beginning of the year with some added things, we've got Knox. We've got, OJ Howard. Maybe they add a pass catching back. I know they already added Duke Johnson. So I think the stuff that Dorsey's going to do in terms of how the offense is structured is going to help, a little bit with that and keep people on their toes and defenses on their toes.
Yeah. I don't know. I think that, first of all, I look at Ken Dorsey and I see somebody who maybe has never been like an offensive coordinator before, so you don't necessarily know what to expect. But he was the passing game coordinator last year, so I mean, he coordinated the passing game. So I mean, we know we have a great passing game, especially with the weapons accessible to him. So I have supreme confidence in his passing ability. And then not only that, but you have Joe Brady and Mike Shula coming in. The two guys I think are really great football minds, specifically offensive minds. And I think having them in his ear and letting him, maybe seeing things he can't see, the different perspective, like three geniuses creating one unimind, I think, and then not only that, but Cromer coming back to do the offensive line, which was the last time, we had a top 5 rushing attack without our quarterback doing like 65% of the lifting. Although Tyrod did a lot of but you know what I mean? Like LaShawn McCoy in that running attack was still pretty good. I think that all coming together would create maybe a more productive and efficient rushing attack. And the thing about Gabe Davis is I think that him being wide receiver number 2, of course, is going to be new. It's going to be an adjustment. We'll see how he handles it. I think that from what we've heard from people like around One Bill's Drive and everything, is like he's not only going to be able to handle it, but he's going to excel at it. Emmanuel Sanders was just on TV saying it the other day that Gabe Davis reminds him of the Demaryius Thomases, the Mike Tom, some of the other great wide receivers he's played with, and having Stefon Diggs on the other side of the football field is going to benefit him greatly. I think that Jamison Crowder is also a very capable wide receiver, and he's going to at least need to be respected to a degree because he is also very fast. Isaiah McKenzie, you have your gadget guy. We'll see what he looks like on a consistent basis, but we know that he has the propensity to go out there and make big plays and do game-changing things at times, So we'll see if he can be a little more consistent in that area. Duke Johnson is an explosive back out of the backfield. I think Devin Singletary is still and should have always been RB1 number 1. I think, Dawson Knox is coming into his own. I think he solidified himself as at least a top 10 tight end in the league, knocking on that door of top 5. And then OJ Howard, I feel like essentially if you have 11 personnel in there, you basically have 2 big wide receivers that can block, and then Gabriel Davis is a third that can block, he's lanky, but he's as big as a tight end. So I think they can have a little fun with this. And I think that there will be so much, talent around the football that Gabriel Davis is still going to find his opportunities to be open, because I also very much believe that we are going talent in the first round of the draft. So like whichever, I feel like a wide receiver is going to be the best player available. And I think we're going to get one of them. So.
Well, speaking of Gabe Davis, we're recording this on Friday. People are going to hear it on Monday or see it on Monday on YouTube. In between Friday and Monday, I will have released my first 10-minute take video, and it's entitled Reasons Why the Buffalo Bills Should Trade Gabe Davis. So the basic premise is that I feel like the Bills have, we all know Brandon Beane has a certain price tag for players. He says it, right? Like we'll love to have you back if you fall in our range. And I feel like the Bills have a structure of what each position group should count against the salary cap from a percentage-wise point of view. Now, obviously, quarterback, whatever it takes at that point. But that's going to affect, obviously, like Josh Allen right now is like 5% of the cap. Okay, next year he's like 9%. The year after that, it's like 20%. So then you've got the Diggs contract, and I understand that the average yearly value isn't necessarily what hits, but as of right now, his cap hits are like 21 million, 26 million, 26 million. They put out the numbers today on Friday. So I'm just looking at it like Gabe Davis is on his way to 20 million too, I would think. So my point is how do you, in terms of how much money they want to contribute to a quarterback, a wide receiver, and another wide receiver, how does that fit into the structure of, Tremaine Edmonds, we know, is going to be due for an extension. Then Ed Oliver comes along. Dawson Knox, needs an extension. Like Trey White will be on a third contract. Dawkins is going to need a third contract. There's all Milano's going to come up again in 2 years. So there's all these guys. So my thing isn't they should trade them. It's more of like I don't want them to trade him, but I guess I'm saying how do they keep him? And I know they can do the weird New Orleans Saints thing where they just, but I feel like Brandon Beane doesn't want to go fully down that path. So would they have to sacrifice a Jordan Poyer this year, or would they maybe have to not re-sign Tremaine? Like how does, I guess what I'm saying is how are they going to fit it in there? And I'm not sure any of us have the idea, but I wanted to raise the question of what do they do? You can't. We've seen you can't keep everybody.
When is Gabe scheduled to be due for a new contract? He doesn't get a 5-year option. I'm pretty sure.
So he has the 2022 season and the 2023 season, and then it would be his extension the same time that the Diggs extension money hits, and into Josh's second year on his extension. Dawson Knox would need an extension after this season, 2022. Oliver would get an extension in 2024. See what I'm saying? So it's like this convalescence of all this kind of money that's hitting at the same time. So they might have to just let somebody go.
Here's the thing. When I look at the Buffalo Bills front office structure, right, I see a very capable scouting department, right? And they're able to keep really good players. Like if I take a look at since the beginning of their regime, who were the really good players? Jordan Poyer, Micah Hyde, Tre'Davious White, Deion Dawkins, and then they drafted Josh Allen. They got Tremaine Edmonds. They got Teron Johnson. They got Ed Oliver. Like they contributed to all this stuff. And to this point, they've been able to keep everybody that was of that magnitude of value. Even when we thought we would lose Matt Milano, he came right back. So I don't know. I feel like, and plus not only that, but we still need to kind of see what Gabriel Davis can do. Although I do have immense trust in what he can become, I have a lot of faith in it. I think that he can be a really good wide receiver. He has to earn that. It's not just going to come. Like at this point, am I giving Gabriel Davis the super max, or is he getting paid like a top 10 receiver? No, absolutely not. So, and we need to see what he does and how he fits into his new role in Buffalo. And you can figure that out as we go. And not only that, but I think that a lot of the Bills like backups, like depth pieces, are guys who are really good, for like, who they are and where they're playing. Like for instance, you look at the depth pieces on the Bills, like the linebackers, Andre Smith Jr., Terrell Dotson, Tyler Metcalf, like those guys are really good. Like they're good. Like they could start on a lot of defenses in this league.
Oh yeah, no doubt.
Their depth pieces is here because our scouting department is like so good that we're able to, fit guys in roles where they can, excel. And not only that, but obviously the scheme is always like, I say, McFrazier's scheme is so good because they do it with probably lesser talent than the other great defenses in the league. And they still are able to get the absolute most out of these people. So if I take that into consideration, there are certain people where it's kind of like, well, certain people become expendable. If you perform very badly, then you're probably not going to be here to tie, Trent Murphy, Vernon Butler, guys like that. And then sometimes you have to release an AJ Klein, and maybe that doesn't feel good, but he's not one of those high value pieces, So I think being able to keep your guys that are going to be a part of your core. At this moment, if you ask me if Gabriel Davis is a part of this team's core, I would say no. He's not a part of one of those core players that the Buffalo Bills definitely see, as a viable option in the next 5 years, right? That's reserved for your Joshes, your Tremaine Edmonds, your Levi Wallace. I'm sorry, Tre'Davious Whites, your Stefon Diggs, Ed Oliver's, guys like that. I don't think Gabriel Davis is that yet. I think he's coming upon it and maybe knocking on that door, but not yet. He would need to have a really big season, like a Cole Beasley 2020 type of season, in order for people to kind of give him that praise that I think people are expecting him to reach.
Yeah, and I guess that was kind of my point. Is we hope he gets there, but I just don't think he's there yet. So let's wait and see. There's two quick things that I wanted to get into with you that we kind of didn't plan for, so we're going to shoot for the hip. But before we do that, you want to tell everybody about Buffalo Fan Base, what you got going on there, what shows you're doing. I know you got most of your shows from your former place of employment that you're working on. So let everybody know where they can find you and your work, and then we'll move on to two quick topics after that.
Oh yeah, man. Yeah. Man, I'm sorry. Yes, I am podcast and YouTube manager at Buffalo Fan Base, as Charlie mentioned earlier. I am the host of the Justice for All podcast. Tuesdays, 9 p.m. I got Britton Covey, All-American from Utah, coming on my show next week. So that is super exciting. That's going to be on a Thursday night at 9, actually. So it's not going to be on Tuesday, but that is something I'm very excited for. Also got another extremely exciting guest that's going to be coming up in these next few weeks. So definitely be on the lookout for that. I do Home Field Advantage with my man Mike K-Man Lisman on Wednesdays at 9, and then of course First Round by my man Jake Jordan Fridays at 9. And so many great shows on the schedule, so please check out every single one of them. They're all great shows, and we look forward to having more shows very soon.
There you go. Yeah, I mean, you guys do great work. All the guys that you got under there, I think, are all fantastic. So two things that I wanted to get into. One thing I just remembered as we were talking about Gabe Davis. I don't know if you saw this, but there was that report maybe a week ago about the Bills being willing to part with a veteran to trade up in the draft. And for those of you who don't know the report, or it came from a guy named Zig Fracassi. Zig used to work way back, like around 1999. Buffalo actually had two sports radio stations. One was GR, which everybody knows. The other one was WNSA, which was owned by the Regis family, who owned the Sabres at the time. I believe Zig worked there for a little while. Then he left Buffalo, and he's been in Vegas, I think, ever since. So he's not just some random guy. He's got connections in the industry. And he said that some of his people he knew had talked about that. Well, what are your thoughts about that? And I was trying to think of who it might be, and it would have to be somebody fairly young. You know what I mean? Like you're not trading like a 34-year-old guy. It'd have to be like a guy in his mid-20s or something. So I just didn't. What were your thoughts on that? If you had any.
A veteran, that is interesting.
My mind went to Tremaine Edmonds or like. Who
Tremaine
else?
Edmonds is a veteran at this point. Yes, he is a veteran. You're not trading Matt Milano.
Right. It's like, well, who would they be willing to trade? Who another team would value enough to let them move up?
You're damn sure not trading Teron Johnson.
Right.
Who I guess at this point would be a veteran as well. Most of the other
Dawkins,
people,
right? Like,
no,
you're not trading.
Pro Bowl. The whole defensive line is super young, right? And then, or if it's not young, it's guys you just brought in, so you're not trading them. Linebacking core, maybe Tyler Maddock, but he's not of value. I mean, I like Tyler Maddock a lot, but I don't think like he would demand you picks in the draft. You know what I mean?
Right.
Damn, that's tough.
Well, that's why I went
Maybe
to
one of the
Tremaine Edmonds.
safeties.
I'm like, Poyer, maybe? I mean, I don't know. Like,
I mean, maybe Poyer.
not that I want them
Maybe.
to, but that's a really interesting
I'm
thing,
just trying
right?
to think of maybe who's like the most logical, because Tremaine Edmonds, I feel like would it'd be tough to trade Tremaine Edmonds this deep into the offseason when you got to figure out a way to now get a director of your defense for the season upcoming. I feel like Tremaine Edmonds is pretty entrenched unless like some wild stuff happens. I feel like, oh man, that's tough. Like, I can
I
really
think they
only
love
think of one of
Tremaine.
the
I'm just saying,
safeties.
like, who's the veteran that could allow them to move up that they'd be okay with getting rid of?
It's either Tremaine or one of the safeties is the only ones I can think of.
Yeah, I just thought that was interesting. And then
unless you're talking about like Saran Neal, no, he just resigned too. Like, he wouldn't get trade value, so I don't know. Yeah, I'm just spitballing.
So I told you pre-show that there was
Zach Moss.
I mean, maybe
Zach Moss is a veteran at this point.
Yeah,
so is Devin Singletary, for that matter.
Yeah, I mean, maybe. I guess I'm not really sure. That's so.
Yeah, that's not...
I told you that there was Tom Brady news,
mm-hmm.
And this is totally wild to me. So I'm gonna just read you these two things really quick, and then you can just like give me your reaction. This is from Pro Football Talk, who got it from Ben Volin, who works for the Boston Globe. Okay. Tom Brady's plans following retirement took many intriguing turns. Reports came out by Mike Florio that Brady was extremely close to becoming a minority owner and the quarterback of the Miami Dolphins. Brady retired on February 1st, and he was going to announce his move to Miami as soon as the following week. The Dolphins were also going to get Sean Payton to coach the team, but Brian Flores' lawsuit happened to come on the same day that Brady retired. Ross badly wanted Brady, in part to bring sizzle to the Dolphins, in part to stick it to the Patriots. And then there's a tweet here from Luke Easterling, who works for the Pewter Report in Tampa Bay. They've been around forever. And this is sort of a quick summary. I guess the San Francisco stuff was real. So tweet from Luke Easterling. So for those keeping score at home, Tom Brady retired because Bruce Arians is a lazy meanie pants, was going to come back and play for the 49ers. Then he was going to buy part of the Dolphins and play for them. And then he made Arians retired so he could play for the Bucs again. I know there's a lot there to unpack.
I believe all of it. Not gonna lie.
I mean, like, and the article goes on to say that since Brady only has 1 year left on his contract, the Dolphins thing will probably happen next year. So if you bought stock in Tua, you might. And like I told you, I kind of feel bad for Tua at this point. I know he's not, athletically gifted like Josh, but he's been screwed over by the Dolphins. There's no way around it.
What
the guy's
if
only played like 15 games?
What if the Dolphins are retooling for Brady? I didn't think about that.
Yeah, I mean, suddenly you drop into a situation with Tyreek and Waddle and Gesicki, and maybe suddenly Gronkowski shows up, and you've got a pretty decent offensive line. You've got a great defense. I don't know. I was just bizarre.
Tua is 100% getting Josh Rosen.
Yeah, like what are they doing over the? I don't know. It's too bad. I mean, but
they shot his trade value in the face, like literally.
Right.
So now you can't even get anything for your number 5 overall asset.
Right, and like the owner was the guy who wanted him. Flores didn't want him. Then all of a sudden they wanted Watson, but then they didn't want Watson. I don't know. I mean, that's a great example of a franchise, how an owner can ruin a franchise. Like, just sit down and shut up. I mean, hire the right people and then just get out of the way.
And let them do their job.
Yeah, and some owners can't do it. So
I believe every single thing that was said about Brady from the 49ers talk, because I've heard those stories. Like I've heard that report before. Not only that, but I remember Tom Brady was on the Shop, LeBron James show on HBO, and he was like he wanted to go one place, and they decided they were going to keep the other guy. He was like, "Are you fucking kidding me? You're going to keep that other fucking guy? He
ha!
fucking sucks." And it was 100% Jimmy Garoppolo. Like it was 1,000,000% Jimmy Garoppolo. So I believe that. I believe him buying, the dog. I don't know if that's legal. Like, can you buy stock in the team and play for them?
And then of course, like it goes on to say that eventually he wanted to put together an ownership group and like buy the Dolphins, like if he ever retired.
What did Bill Belichick do to him? Oh my god.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, but I don't know. I mean, back in like the '60s and '70s, there was that. I'm not saying a guy like Dick Butkus owned the Bears, but I'm sure that I don't know. I don't know what the league would do. I guess I don't know.
Because I mean, it's so only reason I ask is because Michael Jordan. I remember he like bought the Wizards, I believe it was, and then like he wanted to come back and play, and they were like, "Well, you can't like own them and play." So then he sold his stock in the Wizards, came back and played for the Wizards, and then he bought the Bobcats or the Hornets or whatever the hell they are now. So yeah, that's the only reason I asked. But it's Tom Brady. Maybe I don't know. He's Superman. He can do whatever he wants, honestly.
Yeah, they'd probably just change something.
Sure, Tom, go ahead.
Yeah, whatever you want, man. Well, I want to thank you, Justus, for coming on the podcast, Vidcast with me. I appreciate it on this very first episode. So yeah, Justus is the man in charge of the digital, visual, and audio content over at Buffalo Fanbase. Me and my wife just started this company, 12 Squared. We got all these brands underneath it, all this stuff I've been talking about doing. I'm going to put up this real quick for the viewers in case you're wondering what we got going on. 12 Squared is the parent company. We got the Trust the Process Analytics. We do some scouting. I'm going to do an NFL podcast if I can ever think of a name. This is the Humble and Hungry podcast. Going to do a live streaming show at some point, Gridiron After Dark. I got a 10-minute take video dropping. Well, it would have dropped by the time you heard this weekend. We also got a reaction channel for those of you who don't like sports. We're going to do some gaming. We got all kinds of stuff going on. Appreciate you guys if you would check out any of this content that you want to. Once again, want to thank Justus for coming on.
That
Justus, any
so
final
cool.
words?
Yeah, hell yeah. That is cool as hell, Charlie. Like, that's dope. Like, you making me want to do even more work now. Like you making me want to get out there and just like go crazy. Like, seriously. That's dope. That's dope. That's dope. And also, your NFL podcast, you can just make it an extension of this one.
Yeah, I might do that. I like I said, I can't really think of a cool name. So the names are really what's holding us back at this point. Because we're having trouble thinking of some. So if anyone has any suggestions they want to throw our way,
Humble and Hungry, like NFL version, or I don't know. You think of something cool. I don't know.
Yeah.
You'll be fine.
And I'm not trying to be mean to anybody. I will say though, and I think Justus will agree with me on at least the first point, bet on yourself. And also, if you don't think that you have the time to do something, or you don't think you can do something, you really can. You just got to make the choice to do it. You got to have people around you who are willing to support you, and occasionally not see you that often. But obviously, I have a wife, I have 4 kids, and I'm still doing all that stuff. So it is possible. And I'm really tired, and I appreciate your support.
It is. Whether you think you can or you can't, you are right. So think you can do it.
That's right. Bet on yourself. Work hard. It'll manifest for you. Thank you, Justus.
1,000,000%. Thank you, Charlie. Appreciate you, bro.